Welcome to She Moves Bravely, a podcast dedicated to empowering women through stories of resilience, courage, and success. I'm your host, Shantae Dent. As we continue conversations around sexual assault, giving honor to this month of April, Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month, I am looking forward to this conversation that you're going to hear today. It's with an incredible woman who I actually had the honor of being on the podcast with her and her husband. And we'll, of course, give a shout out for their podcast because you might want to tune in. But I'm excited because even though it's a sensitive subject, it excites me and it warms my heart that there are individuals who are saying, yeah, I hate that I went through this. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. But because I went through it, I'm available to share my story, to offer hope and encouragement to someone else. And so I want to introduce you all to Lanell Osinga. Lanell, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so grateful for being here. Yes, Shantae, you were on our show, My Bulletproof Marriages. Please tune in.
Yes, you
And it
should.
was an awesome conversation that we had.
Yeah. And we did. We had this conversation, which in its own way led us to where we are today,
Right.
as we covered just similarities in our own stories. And so, Lanell, I'm going to pass the baton to you and would just invite you to give us a bit more information about you. Who are you? And share your story and
Okay.
why this month is significant to you.
All right. Well, who is Lanell Osinga? Lanell Osinga is a wife of 19 years, but I have been friends with my husband for 28 years. I am a mother of four, ranging from 22, almost 23, to almost 13. And, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have stayed home for now, I would say 15 years. So grateful to God for that opportunity. I am a friend. I'm a sister. I am a daughter. I am God's child. I am led by the Spirit in all ways, and I am a vessel here on earth just trying to figure it out like everybody else.
Yeah, I know that's right.
Yeah.
Now, the roles that you mentioned, and again, this is where our stories really cross paths in terms of being wives and mothers,
Mm.
and how the history and the aftermath of sexual violation can interrupt us
Oh, it
in many,
did.
in many areas, right? Almost all.
Until I started healing myself, put a strain on that 19 years of marriage. And I'll just go back. I'll just take you back real quick. So I was about 7 years old, and it was actually a friend of the family, and he was actually young himself. He was 2 years older than me. And so hindsight 2020, I have tried to figure out how did he know some of the things that he was teaching me how to do. And I thought, okay, I can only take it for face value that somebody must have been doing it to him,
Mm.
or he was watching others. And so here and there, because we're just so young, that I mean, I'm 7, he was like 8, turning 9. How would we know these sexual acts? And it started with just, touching, and then it started with kissing, and then it started with more fondling, and then it started with, as we got older, because this was a good, let me see, 7, almost 8 years of this. And it was consistent, like and he knew how to manipulate me. He knew how, it was like I was hypnotized. Like he knew how to get me every time I would say like no, and I don't like this, and stop, and I'm going to tell. It's like he knew what to say to get me not to, and he knew what to say for me to continue. And like I said, it just continued for about till I was about 14, about 13, 14 years old. And I got a boyfriend, and I didn't tell my boyfriend, but I just said oh, I just like, in a way, just like, I need your help. Without saying this is what's happening to me, I just need your help. And I just remember acting out sexually at the age of 14 with him because of my experience. And oh, this is how I'm going to show you I like you. This is how I'm going to show you that I love you. And I had no clue what I was really doing at 14. I don't care what anybody says. You truly do not know what you're doing at 14. You're just doing what you think is right. And mentally, I was messed up. Emotionally, spiritually, I was broken. I was broken in every way. Physically, I hated touch. I hated like gentle touches. I only knew more aggression. Like I knew like aggressive touch and I knew sexual touch, but like something that was like gentle, like a hug, things of like I just love you. I didn't like any of that. And it was difficult for my family because, if they wanted to hug me, I was very much guarded. I got with my husband, of course, years later, and this is at the age of 18. And I just kind of acted out the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to show you how I love you and I'm going to show you how much I like you through sexual act. And he's like loving it, like, of course, what 18-year-old boy wouldn't, but it's just an act. It's just an act. I am basically like a robotic person just going through the motions. And I'm not emotionally attached. I was having sexual encounters from, I mean, since the age of 7 all the way till now 18. And my husband wasn't, excuse me, I had boyfriends from the time I was 14 up till I got with my husband. And so that's all I knew. That's all I thought was right. And it became, like I said, it was really robotic. I didn't put too much emphasis in relationships. I really did not put too much emotion into it. I just kind of like, hey, and sometimes it wasn't a boyfriend. And I went to alcohol. That was another thing. I went to alcohol to really try to feed more of my anger, feed more of my disappointment in myself because I was disappointed after I did the act. And my family knew that something wasn't right, but I knew how to put a face on and I knew how to act once again, continue to act. And man, I disappointed myself every single day. I disappointed myself when I woke up. I was angry with myself. I was ashamed of myself. I didn't love myself. I was grateful to God that I got away from that guy, but I didn't stop what he taught me and get help. I just continued to do what he taught me with other people. And then I remember years later, and my husband was out with some buddies. We were in the military, and he was drunk, and he came home and he touched me, and I went off. And I just remember not understanding, like, he didn't understand. I didn't understand it. It's not the first time but he gently touched me, and that's what bothered me the most. He just kind of came behind me and just like was trying to hug on me, and I just lost it, and I just broke down, and I just remember calling my mother, and I just said, "This is what happened,"
Mhm.
and she was just like, "Why didn't you say anything?" And when I explained who it was, she's like, "You didn't show any signs. You did not say anything." Like, she was more upset that she couldn't help me because I never said anything. And then it made, like she said, now this makes sense all these years of me going through all this turmoil, right? Of the drinking and the sexual acts and just the misbehavior that I was taking myself through as a young teenager. And then I told my husband, I explained to my husband what happened. And he was like, "Why didn't you say anything? How come I didn't know? Why didn't you share this with any of us?" And I just said, I didn't know how to. I felt like I said, I was hypnotized. I felt like he just had me, like he had me mentally in a space where I wanted to break free. I didn't know how to break outside of my own inner body. That's what it was. It was like I was trapped as a little girl inside and I was screaming, trying to get out of this body, but I just didn't know how to. And I just remember just releasing that moment. I mean, I'm full of tears. I'm on the ground. I am weeping. I am crying. I am yelling. I am asking for help. And I'm not talking about help from a human being. I'm talking about the help from my Father, the Creator, the one that knew all. And when I released it to my mom, I released it to my husband. I called my father, who was like one of my best friends. And he was more disappointed that I didn't even tell him at all people. He's like, you should have told me out of all people. I'm like, I know. You would have killed him.
Mhm.
And you would have been in jail. And I did not want that.
Yeah.
And then it would have disrupted the whole home. It would have, I know it would have just been a big, big mess. And I didn't want that. And I felt like I could handle this. I could keep dealing with this until it's over.
Mm.
I'm going to say for anybody out there right now that's listening, I don't care how old you are. You
Mhm.
have to release this.
Yeah.
You have to get help. You have to tell someone. If it's somebody that you're close to and you feel like you can confide in them without judgment,
Mhm.
I could, because it could be a secret that you've held for so many years and they might judge you on why you didn't tell them sooner, or why didn't they know? Or then, you don't need that. You
Mhm.
need an open ear to listen to you, to be able to be a sound mind and be able to emotionally take this on with empathy, to say, I hear you, I feel you, and now how can I help you?
Exactly. Lanell, I like how you just said it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter when this occurred, because your story, similar to a lot of stories, when it occurs during our childhood.
Yes.
I don't think people understand you. You made a lot of solid points, Lanell, and thank you for your openness and transparency and vulnerability here. When you talk about that mindset of a child, and we know, most of us should know by now, the innocence of a child, the level of belief and trust of a child. And as you mentioned, even in your situation where it was another child only a few years older than you, but even so, connecting the dots, if he's conducting himself this way and treating me this way, clearly there's something he has been exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But then you talked about something I feel that we fail to understand, outsiders fail to understand, the manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
This is where, as a child, and this happens to adults as well,
Mm-hmm.
you can't even explain it. But it's so real. The
Yes.
manipulation, the threats, they're so real. And we can come out of that situation and look back as an adult and say, oh my God, why didn't I just say something? And why did
Right.
I believe them anyway? But I encourage our listeners to remember, again, especially if you were a child, you believed that person, you believed
Yes.
those threats, and the manipulation, it was real. And let me recant, not especially if you were a child, because again, it happens in adulthood as well. Manipulation, bullying, grooming is real. And powerful statement, even when the act or the acts end, the aftermath continues.
Yes.
That's the hard part about sexual trauma and recovering and healing. One could think it's over, it happened, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to act as if it never happened. I'll rename it. But the reality is, no, unless we deal with it and heal and acknowledge to get on that path of recovery, the aftermath continues. And what you described, Lanell, is so common. And it goes in two different directions where the victim of sexual trauma can either become uh, promiscuous or go in the opposite direction where they like reclusive and
Mhm.
no one is coming in.
Right.
I am not opening up to anyone. And I want to normalize everyone's response. We all respond differently to sexual trauma. And whatever your response is, I want you to know that it is normal. It is normal. And what's important, as you mentioned, Lanell, is that we get the help that we need. Like, you can't sugarcoat that. You have to get help. You
You
have to
do.
talk about it. So
It's hard to go through life
yeah.
without receiving help in trauma situations. It is really hard because you think, like I said, you'll think that, okay, I got through that and I'm fine, but there's another challenge that's coming.
Yeah.
Okay. When you evolve, there's other things that's going to trigger you, right? And so you have to know, like, if you are not healed from this one thing down here, it's going to come up into wherever you're at right now.
It
It
will.
has to,
Mm,
because it's asking you to face it. It's asking you to look directly at it and say, I can face this,
mm,
right? Everything that you go through in life is to challenge you, is to actually help you become stronger in who you're supposed to be. And not only for you, but for somebody else.
for
You think
somebody.
everything that you do in life is for you. It's not. It's for somebody else seeing you. It's for somebody else hearing you. And that's what I realized, that man, once I shared it, I was so free. It opened a door for me and my husband to really, that wall that I had up for so many years, of just being angry with myself. I wasn't able to, even in my marriage, be really truly who I was supposed to be. I couldn't fulfill some of the, sexual, I would say, fantasies, or, desires that my husband had, because it put me back to that little girl that was doing something for somebody, and I didn't really want to do it with him, right? And I want to do it with my husband because I really love him and I desire this, but that little girl
Yeah.
is screaming
Mm.
right now, like, no, don't do that. No, 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 you're free. You're free. You don't have to do that. But it's like, but I want to do it with him. But no, the adult girl says, yes, I want to do that with him. The adult woman, excuse me. But the young girl that's still inside of me is screaming, don't. And until I was able to actually free myself and heal from all of this, from that past, then I was able to then step into like this new arena with my husband. And we were able to engage in, the sexual acts that we were doing. It became more free and open, and it just flourished in the bedroom even more.
So, Linnell, what did that healing process look like that began that day where you let it all out? It was like your first time just acknowledging and expressing and confiding with your family and your husband. What did the next few months, years look like?
It was years. It wasn't just months. I mean, somebody that says that it took them weeks or months and now they're healed and they're good. Praise God for you. I swear that's amazing. And I'm so grateful to God that you were able to do that. But I'll say for myself, it was years. It really was years of just taking it slow
Mm,
and dissecting every movement and every act and things that were even said, like even like words, like, oh, that's a trigger. You know what I'm
mm.
saying? Because that was said to me. And I had to, go see somebody. I had to go see a counselor. And I had to, share a lot of this past trauma, and I didn't really want to. To be honest with you, I was still fighting. I was still fighting, like, no, that's a secret. We don't talk about those things. And it was like, no, this is a safe place. One, actually, he has passed away. So therefore, he is no longer around, and he passed away at a very young age. And so I used to say karma, always comes back. And I said, I don't have to touch anybody, at all, forever hurting me, because I allow the universe to do that. Universe knows all, and therefore I don't have to do much. And I had to seek counseling. I had to confide more into my husband. I had to do some journaling so that I can actually understand, like, oh wait, what's that word? Oh wait. And I carried a journal with me, because you never know when something's going to happen. And so when something came up, if you can journal about it real quick, just if you're in the car, if I'm at the park with my kids, wait, I got to talk about this, because it's another thing. I didn't want my children, it's not that they didn't feel, my older two, because by the time I had my second set of children, my older two, they were young when I had them. And so I was young when I had them, and so they have got a little bit of the backlash. Mommy was very much so angry. And so I tried my best to be loving and be, that mom that you see on TV, but I just wasn't. I wasn't always that way. I say I had lots of moments of that, acting that out again, but it would take me to consciously say, okay, you hug your child. Like go hug them. They need a hug. They need love. Like I was constantly telling myself, like, okay, if they come up and they need this from you, you give it to them because this is not their fault. Like I had to tell myself about my husband, like, okay, yes, you got to go do this for him. I was always talking to myself about doing certain things for my family until I started healing myself. And then once you heal, it actually just forms. It just kind of comes naturally, Like then I wanted to hug more. I wanted to, I wanted to be softer. I wanted to be able to be held. I wanted to be able to be loved in the way that you're supposed to be. Like all those things just came easier for me, but I was fighting for so many years before
Mm.
with my two oldest and my husband, because I was just so bottled up in myself that I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to just naturally be that way.
Yeah. And this is powerful because once you begin the journey, no one says it's going to be easy. Eventually it can get easier because
Mhm.
notice the difference is once we are equipped with the proper tools, we then have this ability to remain hopeful and optimistic that I don't have to stay stuck or paralyzed in this pain. It's no longer controlling me or overwhelming me. I have the ability to overcome. And this is where I typically would see this transition right before my eyes. And it's powerful when I worked with survivors of sexual trauma because you see the brokenness. And I saw the brokenness in them, the same brokenness I saw in myself, the brokenness, the hopelessness. Will I ever heal? Will I ever feel like myself again? And then once they begin this journey, fighting for their freedom, this journey of knowing that there is going to be a day where they can confidently say, I'm good, I'm
Mhm.
better,
Yes.
I can live again.
Mhm.
And I believe that happens when we understand that there are tools and resources available for us to recover. I I'll never forget. I heard I was working with a young lady, and after she left one of our courses, like a support group, she came to me at the end and she's like in tears, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm like, yeah, this is what we're here for, to support you. And she's like, no, you gave me hope tonight because I've been through, all the things, the therapist, but I was never just straight up told, like, you can heal.
Mhm.
It was like this ongoing process of hoping and wishing and wanting, but never just this firm, you got this.
Yeah.
You're gonna get through this. And we're
Yes.
gonna be right here with you every step of the way. And so to our listeners, and this is an area that you must give attention to. Can we encourage you to take that step and hopefully you kind of take our word at this, that when you develop this mindset, and Lanell, it's I kind of what you alluded to, where it's almost like you're on autopilot because it doesn't mean that everything goes away. Look, I'll be the first one to say, as a survivor, overcomer, and one who went back into the industry to help others, I still had my moments. But what changed is when I had the moments, I knew that I could navigate through whatever that hurdle was. And
Yes.
your antennas also come up. I remember
Mhm.
one day I was attending my daughter's classroom party. And I did a lot of work behind the scenes, room mom, PTA. So it was kind of like my duty. You show up and you get involved. So it
Yeah.
was a norm for me. But this particular day, I came home feeling some kind of way. And it was odd because I thought, this is me. This is what I do. I'm always having my hands in with the kids. And then, and why do I feel different today? What happened?
Mhm.
Lanell, you talk about journaling. I'm an avid journaler since 8 years old. And so that day I had to journal and I'm
Mhm.
dissecting what's going on. And then What did you do today? Where were you at today? Who did you encounter? What did you watch? What were you listening to? I'm going through this process, and then it dawns on me, oh my goodness. One of the fathers at that party resembled the guy who raped me.
Okay, yeah.
Something. I didn't make that connection when he was in my presence. It wasn't a strong enough resemblance for it to be like a direct in real time. Oh my gosh. And
Yes.
so it's a room full of kids and parents. So, we're doing what we're doing, having a good time and socializing. But it wasn't until later that day when I got home that I was so bothered and disturbed. And here's why I share the story. It's because, yes, there will be times where you remember you are a human being and you will remember. What matters is, are you equipped to work through and navigate through that process so it doesn't paralyze you? That's to me what it's all about. Not because, and you mentioned it, for some, maybe they can turn around in months. For others, it's years. Everyone has a different journey and a different time frame. But what I hope listeners will take away from this conversation is, are you equipped?
Yes.
And if you don't feel equipped, perhaps today is the day to connect with someone who can assist you and support you through this journey so you can show up as a healthy individual, as an emotionally healthy wife, as an emotionally healthy mom.
I love that you said that about the paralyzed, because I do think that in this society that we live in now, too many people, and I'm first to say that, being a victim, of, you know, being a victim is not easy. Okay. But staying a victim, okay, that seems easier. That seems easier. And it gives you an opportunity to stay angry. It gives you an opportunity to use excuses for not trying to heal yourself. It gives you an opportunity not to show up the best way that you're supposed to every single day. And it also gives you the ability to allow that person to continue, okay, to hold you back and to they're basically taking over your life.
There you go.
Even when I mean, the person that did this to me for 7-8 years, let me tell you something, passed away years ago, but yet I still could allow that person because of the thoughts and the touches, and because I was like not really wanting to heal, because I just thought that if I could just not think about it anymore or not doing it anymore, that there's no way you can control me. That person still controls your life. So when you decide to go ahead and open up and heal yourself with a support group, talking to somebody you trust, getting hooked up with other ladies that have been through this, journaling, even if, like, for myself, I didn't go through a support group, but my husband and my mom they were there for me. They were there every step of the way. Chad today is still there for me. If I'm like, he's like, oh, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. He's like, okay, do we need to leave you alone for a second? And it's not that I'm trying to play victim. I'm not asking for sympathy. I don't need sympathy at this point. I just know that something just shifted and I need a moment so I can just gather myself back up. And I don't have to be that young lady that I was years ago, where now here I am going off on them. Okay. And they have no clue, and none of it's their fault, but I'm still stuck back there. Stop staying stuck. That's what I mean when I say the victim part. Don't stay stuck and don't allow them to control you, because they may not be doing anything to you any longer, but they are still controlling your mental space and the emotional space and that spiritual part of you that you need to thrive on every single day of your life. And then the physical part that's where you're supposed to, if you're married, your husband, okay, is looking for you to give all of who you are to them, but you can't, because you still stuck.
Good stuff. Good stuff. That is another common area that I would hear about and it was really a driving factor or driving force in my healing as well, because I knew that the moment I decided to say I do, and even prior to that actual date, but yes, for the wives, it's twofold. We are grateful and so blessed to have husbands who understand, who are patient and empathetic. And it's essential that we do our part.
Yes.
If we want to maintain a healthy marriage, yes, our husbands are going to understand if we have a moment. I love that. That's beautiful. And that's what I have had the privilege of experiencing. At the same time, and clearly what you're describing as well with yourself, Lanell, we understood, number one, that's too much of a burden for our husbands to carry if we're always like victim, 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 leave
Right.
me alone, leave me alone. It's important that we do our part. And that's what we're talking about today, taking that step to reach out to someone. As survivors, of course, we're never going to minimize how every area of our lives are affected by sexual violation, any
Right.
form of sexual violation. At the same time, we don't stop there, because
Right.
we know that life can be beautiful. You can flourish, but it's only when you reach out and open up yourself to that healing. And Lanell, as we transition, I feel like I have to say this based off of a statement you made. It's powerful when you talked about, even with the individual who violated you being dead, passed away, not even here on this earth anymore, yet
Right.
the control factor was still in existence.
Mhm.
And it leads me to this area that I know is controversial, of forgiveness. And I want to clarify that when I say forgiveness, I don't know what you've heard or what you've been told about it, but I like to see forgiveness as a way of releasing the
Mhm.
offense.
Yes.
And in on the contrary, it does not have anything to do, from my perspective, with needing to reconcile.
Mhm. Right.
Because some of the offenders are not dead. They're still here, alive, doing what
Yeah.
they do. And it doesn't mean you need to go have a conversation and reconcile and do all the things.
Correct.
Absolutely not. And clearly, for some victims, that is a matter of life and death, right?
Right.
So this is not what we're talking about. I want to make sure before we even dive into this that we're clear here. When I bring up forgiveness, what I am talking about is releasing the offense, releasing that stronghold, that
Mhm.
bondage,
Yes.
and giving that person continuous permission to control your mindset, your behavior. And can we talk about this? How empowering it is when we can release that person's hold on our lives. And we hear it, right? Forgiveness has nothing to do with that person. It has everything to do with you. I mean, my thing is, you jacked me up long enough, and I
Thank you.
refuse to let the damage continue.
That's it. I've always believed in forgiveness. I always said I won't forget, but I can definitely forgive you. And that's only because I always believed in my own ability, right? For God to forgive me. I've always looked at it like that. Like, you know what? I do believe that I'm perfect. I'm like, I'm created by a perfect person, perfect being, excuse me. And I'm a perfect person, human here. And, I don't really understand all that I'm supposed to do here on earth, but I'm here, whatever it is, I'll show up.
Mhm.
And I always say, but I do make a lot of mistakes. And I'm always asking for forgiveness, you know. And so if I cannot forgive somebody for making mistakes, if I cannot forgive somebody for doing something to me, saying something to me, then how can I be forgiven? And I'm not giving that person a pass. I am not. I'm not
I-
saying, oh, because I forgave you, now we cool. If he was still alive, no, we cool, we good. No, I'm not saying that. We would not be cool. We would not go hang it. We wouldn't kick it. You would never be a part of my life. But what I am saying, I do forgive you because I'm not sure what was going on in your life at that time. But whatever it was, I want to release you of that. And I hope you could forgive yourself for what you've done. Okay, and how you control me. If you cannot, that'll be on you and God Himself. But for me, I have forgiven you. And I did that even with him being dead. I said,
Hmm,
oh, I forgive you.
there you go.
I forgive you right now. I said, for what happened. And I said, you know what? I'm not sure what happened to you. I don't know if you were a victim. I don't know if you just saw too much and you said, well, I'll just play this out, and you saw that I was insecure and vulnerable and unsure and, manipulative. And you said, oh, I she's right there. I'll use her. And you decided to do that with me. But whatever it is,
Yeah.
I forgive you. And
Mhm.
there's not one person here on earth. I am 40, almost 41, almost 41, a couple weeks. And I am just so grateful that there's not one person I hate. There's
Mhm.
not one person I have not forgiven. There's not one person I dislike. I mean, I'm just grateful every single day that I wake up. And I hope you listeners do the same. When you start healing yourself, and I mean, even if you were not a victim of 7 to 8 years, if it was just happened one time, if it was somebody you didn't even know, if it was somebody you've known all your life, if you would just dig deep and understand this journey in life is not about anybody but yourself. It's you connecting yourself back to the one that created us. The one that created us knew what was happening to me all these years. And I even for a moment was like, what in the world? What's happening? Like, you supposed to protect me. Why you ain't doing, like, you not protecting me? You not helping. No, 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 no. I don't really know what happened in my past life. That maybe that was just something that happened. And I'm not giving this a shout out. I'm not glorifying this, but maybe that was something that needed to happen so that I could be here today sharing this with somebody else. And God knew that I would heal and I would be able to share this. So you got to understand, I try not to look at anything any longer as a negative. I try to look at everything like a lesson. And I said, okay, that was a lesson you taught me. You knew I would get ahead and get through it. I didn't know when. I didn't know when, but you knew I would. And I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you so much. And I tell God that all the time. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. Thank you.
Yeah, powerful. So I want to share with anyone who is struggling, you're still struggling. The first thing I want to share, and this is what we almost always have to say because we know the lies. It is not your fault. It was not your fault.
Mm-mm.
And even as we touch on forgiveness and releasing, I understand how difficult that can be. I remember the first time one of my mentors told me, you'll have to forgive him. And I looked at her like, yeah, whatever. And I knew I grew up in church. I know what it's all about. But, growing up in church or not, let's
Right.
look at the health studies. Statistically, health-wise, scientifically, it is healthy to release those offenses. And so I want to normalize the person who's like, yeah, whatever. I was that person. And it wasn't anything magical. I did not have this moment of forgiveness and releasing right away. It took me some time to journal it out, to write it out. And I journaled it. And sometime later, I wrote it out through just through a letter that I never gave, but a letter for me to release in a healthy way. And I know even in this short amount of time, we've covered a lot. And I would encourage listeners not to feel overwhelmed, like you have to attack everything in one day, in 1 week. Take this process one day at a time, but at least commit to taking one step. And that step might be a phone call to a therapist or to someone, as you mentioned, Lanell, that you can confide in without the judgment, someone who can support you. We'll include information in the show notes, and this is going to be for RAINN, which is the National Sexual Assault hotline so listeners can have a place to go. But in addition to RAINN, Lanell, I would love for you to share your contact information. I know you and your husband have a coaching program where you work with married couples.
Yes, we do. So my bulletproof marriages at e360tvlive.com. You can hit us up there. We also have a Facebook group. You can join. We put content in every single day. We don't just, help married couples. We don't mind. We have actually a single person in our group. She's just trying to just learn. That's her biggest thing. She said, I wanted to join. I want to learn before I even get in a relationship. And I
There
said,
you
you know
go.
what? You were doing it the right
I
way.
was gonna say
Okay.
that would be the prime time.
And we have couples that have been married longer than Chach, and I've been married for almost 20 years this year, but we have couples that have been married for over 40 years, and they give their wisdom and their guidance. It's just a home for people to come and, share and ask questions and keep growing together and heal. And when you're upset, you can DM us and you can ask us questions, and, you know, we won't ever share anything that anybody doesn't want us to. We do a mail call every single Sunday on our show, which people do send us questions and we answer them live. So if you don't want to do that, that's fine. And we do have we have a free 30-minute call with us. Of course, it's always longer because I like to talk, but please, if you need help, we're here for you. And if you just want to share, if you enjoyed my story as far as like understanding where I came from, how I healed, and you said, you know what, I want to reach out to her, I'll be that listening ear.
I love it. I love it. Lanell, thank you for showing up ready to share and inspire our listeners today. I truly appreciate your openness, and no doubt our listeners are going to just feel that sense of empowerment and encouragement. And I want to reiterate what Lanell said. If what she shared resonates with you, then connecting directly with Lanell might be your first step. Go ahead and do it. We are rooting for you. You got
Yes,
it.
you
You
got
got it.
this.
Yeah.
Please reach out to someone. It's very important. And I love how you said that, Shantae. Just take one day at a time. It
Yeah.
took me years,
Mhm.
years. And that forgiveness part, years. It was years. It wasn't until after I really truly had like healed and gone through the healing parts, and I kept saying, okay, I forgive, I do forgive, I do forgive.
Mhm.
Then I had moments like, no, I don't forgive. Like, no, 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 no. Oh
Change
no,
my mind.
I'm mad. I'm
Yeah.
mad. And I'm like, wait, go back, wait. Because
Wait.
we are human. Okay, human.
So yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I appreciate you, Lanell. We'll include all of Lanell's contact information on our show notes. And we are encouraging you not just this month for Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month, but this month and beyond. You know, continue to spread awareness. And you might not be the one sharing the details of your story, and that's okay. Your level of awareness could simply be, again, that step of deciding, I am going to address this trauma. And guess who benefits? You benefit, because now you're internally experiencing empowerment and freedom. Your family benefits, your colleagues benefit. My goodness, everyone you come in contact with will benefit from your freedom.
Yes, I love this. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you.
Oh, Lanell, it has been an honor.